11:30 on the.
It is 11:30. I would call the Home Advisory Group meeting to order. Can we call the roll, please?
Chair Jesse,
Here.
Member Crandall, Member Flint,
Here.
Member Hader,
Here.
Member Honig,
Here.
Member Krajewski, Member LaPlante, Member Swarzy,
Here.
Member Barfus, Member Bastian, Member Briggs,
Here.
Member Cage, Member Cahill.
Here.
We have two more. We'll give two more. Hold on.
Saved your seat right here.
Oh,
Thanks.
Member Bastian. Here. Member Crandall.
Here.
Forum. Do we have any public comment today?
No public comment.
First item is approval of the minutes of December 3rd. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I'm going to ask that you say your name so she can get you down. When you make a motion or second, thank you. And welcome to our new members. Are there any additions, corrections needed for the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Stand approved, thank you. Item 5A, 25-0067, recommendation for approval of fiscal year 2025 Community Development Block Grants, Emergency Solution Grants, and Home Investment Partnership Act application funding recommendation.
So moved. So moved, Cahill. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Julie for further explanation, but I will cause you all to reflect that in August, we had a lengthy meeting giving direction to some of these applications and what we would be funding, and we have followed that, and I will let Julie explain in detail.
I do have a brief PowerPoint, but before I dive into that, which kind of goes over the memo that was included as part of this agenda item, I wanted to explain a little bit about our consolidated plan process. So this year, we had the pleasure of completing our 5-year consolidated plan, which will guide our funding recommendations, goals, and priorities over the next 5 years. Ashley Miller, who is here, our community development manager, and her team did a tremendous job of going through this consolidated plan process, which includes quite a bit of outreach and engagement with the public, as well as review of all of the applications that we received that we will be discussing in for a little bit later. So part of our consolidated plan, there's very specific requirements that are associated with development of this plan. So I just wanted to highlight some of the sections that we completed and then how we got to the priority needs that will be reflected in our recommendations. So the process of gathering community feedback and collaboration was 3 parts. We did an early public hearing, which was held in June of 2024. We also solicited surveys to our municipal members, as well as nonprofit organizations, townships, park districts, and then a community needs survey to interested residents throughout the community. We received a pretty decent response. The community needs survey responses, 366 English responses and 21 Spanish responses. And our municipal partners, we received 26 responses to surveys, and nonprofits, we received 52 responses. In addition to our early public hearing and our surveys, we also held focus groups for community members, specifically within our nonprofit organizations that we partner with. So 5 focus groups were held at 4 different nonprofit organizations, and 42 participants were took place in those. So that's how we gathered our kind of information from the community. And then we also have to do a needs assessment of the county. As part of that needs assessment, we look at housing, and specifically affordable housing that's available through the community, whether it be rental or ownership, special needs housing, which includes supportive housing and services for that supportive housing, which were identified as essential to prevent poverty, homelessness, or institutionalization throughout the county. We also take a look at homelessness. Just for reference, the one night point in time count that took place on January 31st, 2024, a total of 454 people were staying in an emergency shelter or transitional housing program within DuPage County, while 26 people were found in places not meant for human habitation. This represents about 8.6 decrease from the previous year. However, despite a 19% increase in permanent supportive housing beds, the inventory remains insufficient throughout the county to support all of those needs, and we technically have a shortfall of 427 beds. Agencies that we partner with continue to identify the lack of affordable housing throughout the county as one of the most significant barriers to addressing homelessness. We also take a look at non-housing community development needs, which includes public facilities, parks, recreational facilities, and neighborhood facilities. And we identify programs that serve individuals with special needs, such as elderly, homeless, domestic violence, or persons with physical or developmental disabilities. So that's our needs assessment component. Then we have to go through a market analysis, and this details existing conditions throughout the county, including the number of housing units, the cost of housing, condition of housing, lead-based paint hazards, public and assisted housing, homeless facilities available, housing available, and services available, special needs facilities, broadband needs and housing, hazard mitigation, and barriers to affordable housing. So as you can tell, this is quite an in-depth analysis that we do of existing conditions. And after we take into consideration our collaboration and consultation, our needs assessment and market analysis, we're able to develop our strategic plan, which is included in our consolidated plan. Based on all of that information, we identified 5 priority needs that we are going to consistently have goals to meet throughout these 5 years. Those include affordable housing for both homeowners and renters, improving public facilities and infrastructure, public services, and reducing homelessness. And then in addition to those 4, there's the need for administrative and planning that corresponds to ensuring we can get those projects completed. All right, ready for that PowerPoint? Okay, so now onto the fun part, our 2025 funding recommendations. So please keep in mind that these are funding estimates. We do not have our actual allocations from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development yet. So we are making these recommendations on the assumption that we will get level funding from 2024. So if we were to get that level funding, we would be looking at approximately 3.6 million for community development block grant, 286,000 in ESG, and 1.5 million in home. Next slide. For our neighborhood investment project round, as Member Chassie indicated, we came to this committee in July to discuss the priorities that we wanted to meet for our 2025 and technically 2026 program years. These priorities were based on our consultation that we had with the community, including those survey responses and focus groups. So one of our target applications was neighborhood investment projects, specifically focused on infrastructure improvements and parks and recreation. We received 15 total applications, 8 requested funding for 2025 and 7 in 2026. We did ask all applicants to prioritize which year their project would be shovel ready in. So in addition to looking at the competitive scoring that was done on the application by our staff, we also took into consideration whether or not the project would be shovel ready in 25 or 26 to ensure that we have timely expenditures of our CDBG funding. Again, 2026 recommendations are tentative. While we discussed them in this meeting a little bit, because we asked for applications that covered both 25 and 26, we are completely at the mercy of the federal government, and those recommendations are contingent upon receiving funding from HUD in 2026. So of those, 4 recommended in 2025, 1 is recommended in 2026, and there are B-list recommendations as well. Our B-list recommendations are listed as alternative projects in the event that we receive a significant amount more than we're anticipating from HUD of CDBG, or if one of these applicants indicates that they will not be able to move forward with that project. Next slide. This is a breakdown of what we're proposing for 2025 and 2026 recommendations. I will note that we only have 1 proposed NIV in 2026. due to the fact that we have not gone out for a capital application process in recent years. And we are targeting a capital application round in 2026.
Just to
So
clarify, quick capital applications, meaning nonprofit organizations requesting capital improvements to their facilities. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's okay. So because we haven't done an application round of that nature in a while, we anticipate a large response from our nonprofit partners for those needs. So we expect about 3 capital projects, and that's why we only have 1 neighborhood investment project listed for 2026. Again, contingent upon funding. Sorry, the top 4, we were able to award their full ask for those neighborhood investment projects. And we went based on basically top competitive score down, as well as factoring in that shovel-ready year. Next, please.
Julie, will you get us this? Did we have this? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's in the
thank you.
packet.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So then for 2025 B-list and 2026 B-list, we went with the next top scoring applications. We put 2 for 25 and 2 for 26. Again, this was contingent upon receiving additional funding from HUD or a project falling through that we anticipate recommending funding for. This way, we're able to quickly supplement a project to still get those CDBG funds awarded and allocated and expected. Next slide.
Julie, can I interrupt you for
Yeah.
a second? Can you talk about how you differentiated the 2 projects that both scored
Yes,
39?
great question.
Warrenville and Bensonville both scored 39.
Correct. So, yes, thank you, Mary. For 2025, the reason that the city of Warrenville is recommended for funding at 600,000 with a score of 39 and Bensonville is recommended as a B-list is because since they had the same exact score, we took into consideration their low to moderate benefit. So the Warrenville, right? Warrenville had the higher low mod benefit within their project application, meaning that they were going to have a greater service to those low to mod income individuals. And because Bensonville was below that, we put them on the B list as the next highest scoring, taking into consideration their low mod impact. As I mentioned, we did not request public facility applications this for 2025, but we will be expecting them in 2026. And due to the large volume we anticipate, that's why that 1 project is recommended as an NIB in 2026. Next slide. Public services. So there is a regulatory cap on the amount that we can spend on public service projects, and that is 15% of our annual allocation. So taking that into consideration and assuming we have level funding from 2024, we were able to fund all but 1, or we are recommending funding for all but 1 of the public service applicants. The only reason we aren't recommending Home DuPage is because they did not meet the minimum ask of $60,000 in CDBG per year. Next slide. ESG, we have a similar cap that's placed on certain components. So ESG specifically covers funds that are for homeless or those at risk of homelessness. And there's very specific categories in which we can administer funds for. That includes emergency shelter, street outreach, homelessness prevention, rapid rehousing, and then utilization and administration of the Homeless Management Information System, or HMIS, which is a database that HUD requires we utilize if we're expending ESG funds. We accepted applications for all but rapid rehousing. And within those applications, there's a 60% cap on emergency shelter and street outreach. So the way we configured our recommendations was taking Catholic Charities had taken the emergency shelter, Catholic Charities scored the highest, and we gave them their full ask. And that's broken down in a different attachment, sorry, not on this slide. And then we kind of went from there as far as the 60% cap. So you'll see within another document, PADS was looking for over 200,000 in emergency shelter support, and we aren't even able to meet 50% of that need. And then same with street outreach, we had to factor in the emergency shelter need and street outreach need, and we came to these recommendations.
PADS came to the county board and asked for additional funding, and we supported that.
Correct. But that
In
was,
addition to that.
yes, but that's for a different need. What the county
Okay.
board is supporting is additional support for spillover hotel rooms.
Okay.
Because the interim housing center is full.
Okay.
And through the winter months, they had a significant waiting list of 80 people waiting for shelter. So the county board, is providing fund, the county board and DuPage Foundation together will be funding, capacity for about 70 rooms over the winter months. So this is specifically for the operation. These funds go to support the operation of the IHC.
Okay.
The other funding, is for services and shelter outside of the housing center.
Okay.
Also to clarify a little bit, my apologies for not mentioning this earlier. This also aligns with our program year with HUD, and our program year runs from April 1st to March 31st. So that's why that winter spillover, that wouldn't be impacted by our funding recommendations, which wouldn't start till April 1st, upon receipt of funding. So you'll see that there is one organization that we are not recommending funding for, Family Shelter Service. And the reasoning behind that is they're looking for emergency shelter support. And we have that 60% cap that we are kind of have to identify the highest need. And we took into consideration their significantly lower score from the other applicants. There's also another caveat involved with ESG funds. So ESG funds, as I mentioned, there's the HMIS database that HUD requires any ESG recipient to utilize, which helps to track those clients that are served with those funds. Family Shelter Service currently does not utilize that database. There is the ability to utilize a database that is comparable to that. However, they also do not utilize a comparable database either. Ashley did have discussions with them when they submitted their letter of intent, and they were willing to utilize a database that was similar. So we allowed that application to move forward, but based on the significant scoring difference and then our limit on that 60% cap, we have a recommendation to not fund that organization.
And this group should know that we also funded,
The 150,000
yeah,
from the county boards.
so they're getting something from the county in that aspect. So
I do have a question. Is there a way you could provide us a list of the non-for-profits and people, the applicants that applied that didn't make the cut? I just find it maybe helpful because I'm assuming that when the next year round comes, that they might be resubmitting again, just so we have it, so it's on our radar.
Yeah, of course. So within the packet, there
It's in the
is a
packet.
breakdown
Oh,
of every
okay.
applicant, what under each kind of element that we did. So neighborhood investment, public service, and ESG.
Gotcha.
Public service and ESG, there's just one in each category, and then the neighborhood investment breaks down everyone that applied, and then kind of where that scoring cutoff was, and
Okay.
whether or not they were.
Thank you.
Of course.
And I'm just going to interject. Could you just provide a little information about the process that the applicants go through and the pre-application
Yeah,
meeting
of
and the
course.
assistance that they receive?
Yes, so in August, we held a pre-application mandatory meeting where we talk about key aspects of our application, minimum requirements that need to be met that aren't scored but are just required because of the federal funds that we receive, as well as the different scoring components of the application. After that meeting, we provide access to a letter of intent, and the letter of intent is submitted to give us a basic information about the project, but really for us to be able to determine eligibility of serving a low to moderate income area. After the letter of intent is reviewed and any clarification is obtained, if the project is deemed eligible, they're given access to our full application. They have about a month to complete that full application, and basically from the time that we have our mandatory meeting all the way until the deadline of the application, they have full access to all of our team for any types of questions, technical assistance, guidance that's needed to help them submit the best application as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Next slide. Just an update on our home investment partnerships program funding. So while this particular meeting doesn't allocate or recommend any home project funding, I did want to give everyone an update of kind of where we're at, because home is one of the allocations that we receive. So we did outreach to the one community housing development organization that we have in DuPage County, and they did not identify any needs for 2025. However, we have earmarked funding in our consolidated plan and annual action plan for rehab of affordable housing, because that's typically what we see as far as applications from that organization. We are also currently reviewing applications and underwriting two fairly large home projects. The first one that I'll talk about is Naperville Tower Court Residences. This proposes to build 71 new affordable rental units, and it will serve both seniors and individuals with developmental disabilities. The approximate need when this PowerPoint was put together was 2.3. However, they have reached out recently that they have identified an additional funding gap. So they may be reaching out to discuss additional funding that's available. We will bring a full recommendation for this project to our Home Advisory Group Committee in the future, once we have enough information to provide you with the very specific details, specifically financing sources, and our underwriting details on that project. That project was awarded low-income housing tax credits, so that significantly assists in this project's financial viability in order to move it forward. The other project we're actively reviewing is Glen Ellen, Taft, and Exmoor Development with Full Circle Communities as the developer. They are proposing 42 new rental units that will be affordable to both working families and persons with disabilities. At the time of this PowerPoint presentation, they were seeking approximately 1 million in county home funding. However, they have also reached out that they've identified an existing financing gap, and they will likely be increasing that request. This project will also come to the committee for recommendation of funding when we have completed our underwriting evaluation. And that's the presentation.
Thank you so much. Always very detailed. Questions? Comments? I just want to say quickly that, yes, the presentation is awesome. And we put a lot of effort into reviewing these materials, et cetera, but kudos to the staff who work so hard on this 365, 24/7 to put all of this and bring it together in an understandable way. So appreciation. And please express that on behalf of the committee. I appreciate it. Thank you. There are no questions?
Move to approve?
I think it was,
We had
there
a
was already a
motion, a
motion and a
second?
second.
And this is just a voice.
Correct.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? This will move forward. Thank you very much. Are there any informational items for the committee today? Any other business for the committee today? Do I have a motion to adjourn the committee meeting today?
So moved.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We will stand adjourned until February 4th. Thank you very much. And we will proceed almost immediately to the executive committee meeting, but we will give those of you who are not involved in that or don't wish to be involved in that a chance to leave. Okay, I gave you a chance. I call the CDC Executive Committee meeting to order for January 7th. We call the roll, please.
Chair Jesse,
Here.
Member Crandall,
Here.
Member Flint,
Here.
Member Hayter,
Here.
Member Honig,
Here.
Member Krajewski, Member LaPlante, Member Schwarzy,
Here.
Member Bastian,
Here.
Member Briggs,
Here.
Member Cage, Member Cahill. Chair Jesse.
Here. Yeah, I think you did.
You should have been first.
I started with you. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Excellent. First item for A 250062, approval of minutes of December 3rd. Motion?
So moved. Second.
Did you get those folks?
Yes.
Thank you. Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstain? They stand approved. Thank you. There are no appeals, as I understand, that have been received.
Not that I'm aware.
Okay.
And I would just like to make a comment on that. I think the fact that no organization who just isn't recommended for funding has asked for any sort of appeal of their score, I think that says a lot about the due diligence that our staff does to review these applications and the quality of the application process itself, and that folks are given every opportunity to understand what the priorities are. The scoring is actually available to them, so they know how they'll score. And so, again, I think it just says, it says a lot about the quality of the work that the staff does, that folks who are disappointed that they don't receive funding, but they, it's a pretty objective process, and they understand it and accept the recommendation. So nice job.
Again, yes. Okay, 6A 250063, recommendation of approval of a first modification to community development block grant agreement with Bridge Communities, Inc., Stability Program for Families Experiencing Homelessness, project number CD 24-05, adding eligible reimbursement of costs for 2 additional direct service staff to the project scope. Need a motion, a second?
So moved. Heather.
Second, Honig.
Staff?
Yes, so this is
Discussion.
a fairly minor modification to the agreement. We just wanted to clarify all eligible staff reimbursables. This did not require an increase or change in grant funding at all. The agreement originally had 1 case manager listed for eligible reimbursable expenses, and we're adding 2 additional, which is 1 intake specialist and 1 children's coordinator, all of which are a part of the program that the applicant originally applied for.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion, comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? That will move forward. Thank you. 250064, recommendation for approval of fiscal year 2025 Community Development Block Grant, Emergency Solutions Grant, and Home Investment Partnerships Act, home application funding recommendations. That is all the information you just saw in the previous meeting. We need a motion and a second.
So moved, Honig.
Crandall?
Thank you.
Any additional questions or discussion at this time? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. That stands approved to move forward. Item 7A 250065, an informational item only, no vote required, ladies and gentlemen, single family rehab project 1806 funding overages. I turn it over for discussion.
So our SFR policy allows for staff to assess a situation to allow for cost overages if needed. This particular client applied for a bathroom rehab and replacement of 2 bedroom windows and a sliding door. Upon receipt of the bids, the project came in slightly over by $267. Staff felt it was necessary to move forward with everything that was applied for, instead of taking out a significant piece of the scope. So it came in at $15,267. So just letting you know, staff made a judgment call, and that's what the overage was for this particular client.
It's 15,000 for 2 windows and a sliding door?
Bathroom rehab,
Okay.
2 windows and a sliding door, yeah.
I missed the bathroom. rehab.
Ooh, that would have been a lot for 2 windows and a sliding door.
That's a really good window. Any other business for the committee at this time? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, Honig.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We stand adjourned until February 4th, 2025. Thank you for your time.
So